at the time Levittown was built, there were over 17,000 homes that were built. And by 1990, you had over 53,000 people. So it's increased since then. So I don't think there's I think there is a shortage of churches.
The New York City metropolitan area is an area where about 3% claim to be evangelical Christians. In the county we're in, Nassau County, that number is about 1.5%.
We began to look at the map and said, this is right in the middle of Long Island, of Nassau County, of 500,000 people within a 5-mile radius. And what an ideal place for a church.
A receptivity to the gospel has come about since 9/11. And with the receptivity to the gospel, with Dr. White's having contact with the North American Mission Board, and they're saying that this is one of the areas where churches need to be planted. Therefore, Dr. White and I came up here, and as we came up here, we asked the associational leadership and the convention leadership to help us to look at some areas whereby we might consider planting a church. Then as we began to spend a lot of time in prayer about it, the church family at Katy began to spend a lot of time in prayer about it, and then Sterling and Jenna Edwards surfaced right here in the Houston area.
Sterling is not a New Yorker, but I certainly believe that Sterling is called of God to start a church, to establish a church, and it's a calling that has been in Sterling's heart for a long time. Even in days we were at Pampa, he and I would discuss, hey, what's your future, Sterling? And he'd say, I want to start a church someday.
We want to be able to form a church, but we don't believe that we're going to come to Levittown and flip on the light switch and say that we're open for business. We really believe it means that we're going to become a part of this community, to be able to embrace people where they're at and to be able to love them in such a way that we'd have the opportunity to tell them who Jesus is.
At first thought moving to New York was just crazy, impossible, overwhelming, and I was sitting outside watching my girls swing and reading my devotional. It was about when Moses told God he couldn't do what God was asking him. He wasn't the man. He didn't have the big words to say. And as I continued to read, tears just began to flow, and God's presence was there with me on that porch swing, and he told me, no, you are right. You cannot do this. You do not have what it takes, but I can do it through you, and I will equip you for this job. And from that moment, it was, here I am, send me.
We need a lot of Sterlings who have the same kind of heart to raise up indigenous New Yorkers and indigenous people who've emigrated to this part of the world to be sent back out into the harvest field.
There's a need for us to be able to have people who would actually come physically and spend a week. We would love to have people who would be able to move here and to be able to help us with this. We understand that, as I've been saying, the tremendous amount of people that are here, it's not as if one person or two people are going to be able to accomplish this mission. We realize we're completely dependent upon God first and foremost, but on other people who would follow Him in obedience to go to where He would call them to go.
As we begin to make disciples, that's how we measure success. Are we making some disciples in Levittown, New York, disciples who are beginning to congregate together into Bible studies, and eventually those Bible studies will come together and join together into a church that will make an impact on the community? Do you measure it by the nickels and noses? Not so much. You measure it by hearts changed, by people who are joining God on mission to be obedient Christians and expand His glory and expand His fame. As God's kingdom's expanded, that's the measure of success.
The real support for us, we really believe, is people coveting to pray for us as we head into Levittown. The fact is, we don't know all of the things that we're going to face as we go into Levittown. We have not done this before in Levittown. We have not been in this type of situation. We really anticipate that the main source of support for us will be people to pray for us as we begin this ministry.